This episode of the No Huddle Show is being brought to you by Chevrolet Cadillac of Turnersville, a Penske automotive dealer. Visit today at the Route 42 location in Turnersville, New Jersey, or online at ChevroletofTurnersville.com and CadillacofTurnersville.com.
What's going on, everybody? Zack Rosenblatt here, NJ.com, latest episode of the No Huddle Show, here with Mike Kaye, our preview episode. Big game this week, which is something we say every week. It is a week-to-week thing, but if there was ever a game that they can't afford to lose, like I know it's such a cliche to say that every week, but if they fall to 4-7 after losing to the Giants of all teams, like, just call it.
Well, when you can't win 2 games in a row ever. Every game is a big game. You know what I mean? It's kind of
the Giants have won 2 games in a row, and the Eagles haven't. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this is a must-win. They have to win this game. Every NFC East game from now on is a must-win game. And I think for the Eagles, they're kind of situated where on offense, I think they can run wild on this defense. But that said, the big story of this week is the secondary, and I just don't know how you take Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, and Evan Ingram out of the game collectively.
Plus, Saquon Barkley's basically a wide receiver half the time.
Yeah, it's going to be a daunting task for the defense. I think when you look at how this defense is structured, it does kind of seem like they're overcompensating in the passing game, which is affecting the running game. Saquon Barkley in Week 6 came in and absolutely just ran through this great run defense at the time.
It kind of feels like he's the one that broke them, too, because since then they've gone way downhill.
Right, well,
They've played really good players, but that was the tipping point.
Yeah, coming into following the bye, only one player had run for over 50 yards against them, and since then, Ezekiel Elliott's done it. I believe Kamara did it. So, look, the run defensive struggles have really kind of coincided with the secondary issues, and it just seems like Malcolm Jenkins can't do as much against the run game because he's kind of babysitting the secondary. I think the linebackers have played poorly. There's a lot going on there, and I think this is going to be a very close game, but I still think it's a very winnable game for the Eagles, obviously.
And the weird part is that it's a very winnable game for the Giants, too.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
That kind of tells you this, because when we talked about the Giants game going into Week 6, we're like, Giants are trash, Eagles are going to kill them, this is a game you just win and hope you can gain some momentum. They looked really good. If you listen to that post-game pod, I'm sure we were sounding pretty optimistic about the rest of the season, and it's just funny how quickly things change. Okay, so we'll get into the specifics of the injuries. I guess we can get into it now. So when they played, from the time they played against the Giants to now, a few players that started that game that won't be there this time include Derek Barnett, Jordan Hicks will likely not be playing. Jalen Mills will likely not be playing. Sidney Jones, who started that game and got his initial injury. Ronald Darby is for sure out. They're probably going to be with Avonte Maddox, who was starting at safety in that game. That was the game where Rasul Douglas played safety, and he might not play.
Yeah,
that's 7 guys I just listed, and the defense played pretty well in that game. They had an interception, Camus, early in the game.
That was the last time they had an interception, too.
Yeah, I mean, and he might be playing a lot because Jordan Hicks was out. That was the high point of a lot of things for that team that game, and it's just everything else since then has gone down. But you mentioned it, but they're going to be. They could be without their top 4 cornerbacks, not counting Ronald Darby, who we know is out for the year. Mm-hmm. So that way, the same 3 guys last week that were on the team a month ago, Crayvon LeBlanc, Devontae Bosby, and Shandon Sullivan are your top 3 cornerbacks, and you're going against maybe one of the top 3 wide receivers in the NFL. I mean, Eli Manning's Eli Manning. If you're gonna, if they're gonna have their coming out party against anybody, maybe it's Eli Manning. But the fact that Odell Beckham Jr. is the one on the other side of the sideline, the line of scrimmage, is troubling.
So the key for this game, with the secondary being the way it is, and even Hicks being out, it's on the offense. You have to score enough points that you're going to
finish drives.
Yeah, you got to finish drives. You got to take advantage of everything. And the defensive line needs to play more in sync. They're going to get Tim Jernigan back, which is terrific, but we don't know how he's going to react to not having played football.
Yeah, and what to expect out of him.
And, in what is it, 10 months?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't practiced. I mean, he only practiced for the first time a couple weeks ago for the first time since the Super Bowl.
Right, so those expectations, you don't know what's up. They haven't been able to get to the quarterback. Nobody's really been able to get to Drew Brees, so you can't really.
Yeah.
That game's kind of an anomaly.
Take that game out of the picture when you're talking about it.
They still have not done a really good job of
the defensive line's been a problem.
They need to do that here. They need to get to Eli. You've got to force that Eli face, and it's just look. If you can't rise up to the challenge, I feel like the Eagles, outside of last week, play up to the level of their opponents, which can be a good and a bad thing. But I think this game, if you can't step up for this game, you're done. If they lose this game, they're done.
Yeah,
they're done. Completely done.
Enough with the scenarios. Like, if you lose this game, you're done. Like in all ways, the locker room might crumble. There's already shown some like cracks in the system that maybe they open up quite a little bit bigger if things they lose on Sunday. Like,
they've got to win this game. It's at home. They're currently 2-3 at home.
Lost 3 in a row at home.
Right. So,
they haven't done since 2013, I believe. I looked it up.
So, you really got to. This is your put up or shut up time, and then you can kind of be like, well, now I can feel optimistic because the Cowboys have kind of evened the ground in the NFC East. Where if they lose to if the Eagles beat the Giants, this is what the scenario is, and we'll get more into it later. But the Eagles win this game. The Cowboys lose next week, and the Eagles win next week. They are in the driver's seat again. Like, not only control your own destiny,
and then you play the Cowboys on the road the week after that. So, like, it's there. Like, you can see it. Like, the tunnel is there. It's just a matter of if it closes down on them or not.
Then, despite popular belief, Amari Cooper looked good. The Cowboys in general did not look good yesterday. The
Redskins just are so banged up at this point that, like,
it's just,
they have something. Their offense is what the Eagles have been dealing with on defense.
Right. I think the Redskins were probably the best team in the conference as of
division.
2 weeks ago. Sorry. Division,
no, I know what you meant.
As of 2 weeks ago, and it's a shame for them that.
Yeah, to go on to a 6-3 start and then lose your quarterback. Yeah.
Right. So I think it's very realistic that the Eagles, if they beat the Giants, could be in the driver's seat in a week. Because nobody's beating the Saints, and you want to get to that division championship. You want to get that home playoff game, and then you see where it goes from there. We touched on the cornerbacks a little bit. Let's talk about the pressure. So a lot of people talk about the pressure that it puts on Malcolm.
I think I know what you're saying now. You don't even need to continue.
Yeah, so it's putting on Malcolm Jenkins and the pass rush. But I think the secondary puts so much stress on Carson Wentz and this offense. And the way you alleviate that stress is by having a balanced attack. You need to run the football in this game.
Run some clock.
This is a game that Corey Clement should have at least 10 carries. Josh Adams should have at least 15. You have to find balance here. That's the only way you are going to be able to take the pressure off of Carson. Part of the reason why Carson struggled so much against the Saints early on is they weren't on the field very often, and they couldn't control the football. That's what running the football does. Josh Adams has proven that he can make some plays. He's probably been the most explosive player over the last 3 weeks.
77 yards a carry.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
like
crazy.
It's the best in the NFL in that stretch, I believe.
And he's had a run of over 20 yards.
28-yard touchdown. I mean, the thing is, like, you'll see they'll run at the first play, they won't gain anything, and then it's like, okay, the running game's not working.
Well, I think they're pressing with their use of Carson.
You saw what Sean Payton's comments to Peter King about, like, we want to make Carson throw the ball at us. It's because, like, all right, let's stop the run let's stop the run early, and then all of a sudden they're just going to abandon it. So let's force Carson to beat us.
Which is weird because a lot of teams became one-dimensional against the Eagles' defense and ended up winning because of it because they kept throwing.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Carson's going to have to throw the ball probably 40 times this game. That's going to happen. But you need to be able to run the ball efficiently because you want to close. If this team's up by 10 points, you can't trust them. You have to run the football. And I think Josh Adams has shown you, I mean, he's averaging 6.6 yards per carry overall, I believe. And, he's just picking, I mean, he's had maybe 3 negative runs over the last 3 weeks. So keep riding him. If you want to start off the game doing 3 straight runs, depending on the success of it, I'm kind of cool with that.
Yeah.
Like, establish the run.
I agree.
Saquon Barkley is going to tear this defense apart. It's just what's going to happen.
Keep the ball out of his hands as long as you can.
Yeah, keep the ball out of his hands. Try to play really good red zone defense. That's what won them the last game. I mean, they put up some yardage in that game.
I mean, look at Saquon's numbers from that game. He had like 200 total yards, and they scored what? What was the final score? It was like 31 to
to 13.
13, yeah. So
I mean, so you've got to take advantage. I actually kind of want to see them start with the ball. I know that's crazy, but like you need to see them start off quickly. I think the defense is tired. You're asking.
I mean, look. Sorry to cut you off, but the Eagles had 46 plays total last week on offense.
Well, they had 7 plays total in their first 3 drives. They were.
That's what I'm saying. Like 46 for a game is that's really low.
Well, and Doug Peterson and Mike Rowe have both hinted at that as well. So, look, run the ball. We say it every week, but run. This is the game you have to control everything because if Eli's under pressure, we know how he reacts to that. I like Shandon Sullivan. I liked what I saw, the fight from him against the Saints. I
think he can be a player too. Yeah.
In the preseason. Bosby's got good size. Maybe you put him against Sterling Shepard, you feel good. I think Malcolm Jenkins will line up against Evan Ingram. I think that's a matchup to watch. And then a linebacker. Let's talk about Jordan Hicks because I know you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, it's an important thing to discuss.
Yeah. Nigel Bradham played basically middle linebacker for most of their Super Bowl run.
And he was better last year than he has been this year.
Right. Exactly. So my thought process is maybe you get him back in there. Maybe he got comfortable there. And I trust Camus and Gary to an extent.
It seemed like Jim Schwartz implied that Nate Gary might be the guy that even, I don't know if he starts, but it seems like he's a guy that's going to have to step up a little bit. Well, yeah, they trust him at every linebacker spot, which is why they like him so much, I think. But I thought that was interesting. Like they talked about him before, talking about Camus, who I think is probably one of their best playmakers on defense relative to like the number of plays he plays and how and he should have had an interception against the Cowboys that might have changed that game. But I mean, this is kind of going to be the game where you find out what those guys are made of, if they need to bring back Hicks next year. Like this is kind of their tryout for next year almost.
Yeah, I don't know how you bring back. Hey, that's a whole nother.
Yeah, we'll have a podcast where we talk about the future of this team.
It'll just be about Jordan Hicks. Hopefully that one's sponsored.
But how do you think they when with those guys in, like how do you think they match up with this Giants offense? It's going to be tough.
Here's what I like about Gary is I think if he gets put on a linebacker or a running back, he's got the speed to actually.
And he's got the coverage experience from being a safety.
Right. So, in a way, I think that might be a benefit because Jordan Hicks looks a little bit slower out there. He doesn't look like the playmaker he once was. So maybe that opens.
Maybe this is a jolt they need or something.
Well, and we haven't seen enough of Nate Gary to really.
He has been banged up this year. He's a guy that haven't. It's kind of. He's a depth piece, and he's been hurt, so that's like one of their many depth problems they've had.
I mean, I think in base, he's probably the most appealing replacement for Hicks. But like in nickel, you've got to figure out if it's going to be Camus or Gary that lines up against next to Bradham. And look, I don't think they miss Michael Kendricks even an inch, but. You don't know what Gary is. It's hard to make jump to a conclusion because he was a safety in college. It's what most of your film is. The preseason, you're facing vanilla offenses. You don't know what he can retain. You don't know how smart he is. You don't know all this stuff. So I think this is an interesting game. And if he can emerge, really, we've talked about this before, guys playing well like Josh Adams and Trayvon Sullivan, Avonte Maddox, playing well and making it so maybe these other guys aren't back next year and they're cheap. That's one of the bright sides of having all these injuries. The negative side of it is you're 4-6. So, again, Jernigan returning, Nate Gary having an elevated role. We like Shandon Sullivan. That's every layer of your defense, and I think, there's room to be positive. I think if Shandon Sullivan can step up playing a whole game, that's great. I am not encouraged by Corey Graham doing anything on the field anymore.
No.
He is done. But they're probably going to have to start him at free safety. Trey Sullivan, I think got pulled. I don't know that for a fact. That's not a report. But I think he got pulled the other day against the Saints because they were just dropping bombs.
Maybe you try DeAndre Hall out, see if he exists as a player on this team. No? Okay.
That's not a good idea.
I agree. That's just one of those, like, why they do that moves from this year. But
yeah, I didn't understand that trade at all. And then, your linebacker depth is going to be tested. If Gary goes down, you're going to play one of the special teams players like Leroy Reynolds, who really hasn't played on defense in several years.
I mean, he played like 1 or 2 snaps earlier this year.
And then DJ Alexander's never plays.
He's another guy like, wait, he exists here?
Yeah. So, again, the defense not looking terrific, but it's nice to have Jernigan back, and maybe Jernigan will surprise us. Like, I'm going to save a tweet in my inbox already that says Timmy Jernigan, defensive MVP, when he has 2 sacks in this game.
Oh, man,
so,
that would be crazy. I mean, he's playing. Let's talk about Timmy Jernigan a little bit. So he's a very interesting case because, they traded for him before last season. They, swapped 3rd-round picks from the Ravens, grabbed him. He was really good in the first half of the year, I believe, and then he started going way downhill performance-wise.
From a pass rushing standpoint, he was really good. He retained the run stopping. It was just more of the consistency.
Yeah, the consistency was an issue, and then he had this mysterious back injury this offseason. They still haven't really said what it was, and they probably never will. Maybe they'll come out eventually. I don't know, but he's a guy that as a result of that injury, they restructured his contract to where he has 3 team options now. The last 3 years, he's gonna be making, I think, $13 million a year. That's a lot. So in order for him to earn that money, he needs to play close to Aaron Donald level these last few weeks. And if he can make a huge impact on this team, then they'll find a way to bring him back. But he's kind of playing for his job right now.
Right? Yeah, or he's playing for a restructure. So. And I think that's fair. You give the Eagles the leverage when this injury is what it is. And look, you look at the numbers. The numbers aren't terrific, but you look at what he's able to do for Fletcher Cox, who's then able to attack a lot more. I think that'll make the defense better. Tim Jernigan's a really solid defensive tackle. Fletcher Cox is a really great defensive tackle, and he's kind of fallen off because he started off quickly, played really well, and then it just seems like the lack of depth next to him really hurt him. I think he's overcompensated like Malcolm Jenkins has in the secondary. You've got to find your balance, and I think a lot of people have been quick to criticize Fletcher Cox because he's kind of disappeared somewhat from the box score.
Relative to the first 4 or 5 weeks, yeah.
You also have to factor in the fact that Derek Barnett's not there. Who I think was coming along very, very well.
And then you have Brandon Graham going the opposite way, Chris Long going the opposite way. Bennett's been pretty solid, but
yeah, Bennett's going to have a big game.
Yeah.
Bennett, I want to see more Josh Sweat, man. At this point, what do you
find out if you have, because he might need to start next year. So
that dude's athletic as hell. I'm part of his hive. I feel like at this point, that's my dude. But he's a guy. Give him 20 snaps. Figure out where he's at. Touching back on that, though, the running game and having that running game established will help this defense because it'll give them more time to kind of recuperate, especially from bad plays. Because there's going to be at least 2 big breakaway catches for the Giants' offense. It's going to happen. Or for Saquon. Guys are going to bounce off the dude. So, again, this needs to be a well-balanced session from both the offense and the defense, but the offense, the onus is on the offense to really show up in this game. It's time. You can talk about Carson, you can talk about all these weapons that he has. Now's the time. This is your season. It's playoff. You're in a playoff game.
Every game the rest of the way is pretty much playoffs for them.
And the thing is people are gonna kill me in the comments for this. I know this already. Fair or not, Carson's legacy is going to be compared to Nick Foles. It is what it is. Nick Foles had an incredible playoff run. Carson has not been to the playoffs. He has technically led a team to the playoffs. I guess you could say the Rams game.
He's never played in a playoff game.
He's never played in a playoff game. This is his first playoff game, right here. And so you need to see how he reacts to, hey, this season's really on the line. No one thought they were going to beat the Saints. I don't even know if they thought they were going to beat the Saints. But, now's the time. You're playing playoff football pretty much every time you play an NFC East team, and probably the Texans. The Rams, they can lose the Rams game. They can even probably lose no, they can't lose the Texans game. They need to win against the Texans.
They got to win at home.
But baby steps, right?
Yeah,
you gotta win this game.
Win this game first.
And then you and I have talked about this privately several times. How do you get the guys up to win that next game? Because they haven't won 2 games in a row. And this is the time. You've got 2 home games right here to say, hey, now's the time. And then you got to string together that 3rd win in Dallas. And then you can, you're due for a loss and you lose to the Rams. That's fine, whatever. I'm just telling you, this division is handing itself to the Eagles.
And they just don't want to take it.
Yeah, just have to see. And honestly, I don't think either one of us think this team can really go far in the playoffs if they do make the playoffs. Yeah. But if you do make the playoffs,
anything's possible technically. Yeah,
then you're not that team that was like, oh, they won the Super Bowl, and then they made a deal with the devil where they're going to lose like 10 straight seasons. So, although I do remember seeing on Twitter a lot of people being like, I'll take the Super Bowl, and we can.
Doesn't seem like they stuck true to that.
Yeah, well, it's Philadelphia.
I've said this before. I was curious how long it would take for them to turn on like Doug and the coaching staff and stuff, and it happened pretty quick.
It took them like 3 minutes to turn on Jim Schwartz, who wasn't even the problem the first several weeks.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, too. Like, if they are overcompensating in the passing game, that's on Jim Schwartz. You gotta stay true to your philosophy of run defense first. Also, I'm going to be a little condescending here. This is my one time to be, hey, so how about Jalen Mills? Think Jalen Mills is an effective defensive player?
They miss him right now.
Like, does the tackling? It's not a coincidence that the tackling is like gone to crap since Jalen Mills has been gone. Jalen Mills is one of the best tackling corners in the entire league, and frankly, the coverage would have been a lot better against the Saints with Jalen Mills there.
Yeah,
I think Jalen Mills is a number 2 corner, probably at best. But he's probably
on this team.
But on this team, he's the number 1. That is what it is.
And I wonder how long this injury is going to linger. Because every time we talk to Doug, he's kind of like, "Oh, that's a little bit longer." Because he says day to day for the other guys. Whenever he says, "Oh, that's a little," like he's been saying that about Darren Sproles all year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he has a broken foot or anything. I haven't seen him in the locker room with a boot or anything.
But it's clearly serious enough that they're pretty much declaring him out pretty early in the week.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't technically, but they pretty much are.
Yeah, today, Friday. We're recording this before the injury report came out.
But by all, I mean, none of those guys have practiced this week, and it didn't sound like they would today either.
Yeah, he gave us the old day-to-day, which never sounds good.
When it's day-to-day on Friday.
Yeah. Well, somebody...
pointed, he's like, oh, we have time. I don't think there's a guy that's played this year when they didn't practice on Friday, or all week at least.
I mean, most teams typically don't. Yeah, you say
it's pretty rare, unless it's like a veteran guy who like doesn't need a practice to play or something.
Yeah.
And they don't really have that in the secondary, so everybody's like 2 years old. So
let me pose a question to you: does Darren Sproles play again this year? And follow up to that: if he does it matter?
That's a good way of phrasing it. I'd say yes and no to those two questions. It's maybe he played like a ceremonial thing in week 16 or 17 or something at this point, because they've just stopped talking about him. Like it's at the point where like people have just like moved on from that. Including maybe the staff is like trying to, all right, we'll keep it up. Like at this point they're not going to put him on injury reserve, but it's going to get to a point where it doesn't matter whether he plays or not. So all right, this is his last game of his career. Let's throw him out there against the Redskins in week 17. Like
it'd be really
that's my head right now.
You know, it'd be really weird. It literally a light bulb went off as you're talking about it. So week 16 is their last home game. Do you know who they play?
They play the Texans, right?
Yeah, you know who plays for the Texans now?
DeAndre Carter.
Yeah. How like crazy would that be?
Gets a
like
touchdown,
that's Sproles like first game back, and Carter just returns one.
Yeah.
Oh man, that would be amazing.
Yeah, because of that decision. I mean, that's the punt return game is the least of their concerns now. Funnily enough,
here's the thing: like Golden Tate's now got that role.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
I mean, he's
the Saints didn't punt very much last week.
Yeah, but he played relatively well that first week. So yeah, I mean, it's just like to me, it's almost like if you're not doing well, it is nice to have that PR piece and Darren Sproles back there, but.
I mean, maybe that's the angle. Why? I mean, because there's no way he comes back again next year. So if he's like, all right, I'm hurting, but let's just like throw me out there.
Well, it's just like
for one play.
I think somebody brought up the IR return guy. If they lose this game, who cares?
Yeah, who cares if Mike Wallace is playing?
Yeah, like, well,
I mean, he does.
Even if
probably.
they do win, who cares? But I think it's one of those things.
Remember Mac Hollins? Remember him?
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen him since I've been here.
That's the craziest part about it. Like Mike Wallace is in the locker room all the time. He shoots the crap with the reporters. Like he's pretty open about his recovery.
Yeah, I mean,
and Mac Hollins is kind of like MIA. I think Mac Hollins is playing for his job in training camp next year.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that's just kind of maybe his veteran savvy of like, hey, I know how the media works. Maybe I should.
He also wants a future. I've heard him talk about how he wants a future in the media too. Like so, I mean, it's smart to like ingratiate yourself with these guys. Yeah,
maybe
but
he'll be.
He's. I mean, I really have you had a chance to talk to him at all? Probably not. Right?
Not yet.
Because you got hurt. He got hurt the week you started, pretty much.
Right. Yeah.
So he could blame you, I guess. But
we have. Some
I like him as like he's a guy that like if he was healthy and a part of this team, he'd be a leader on this team. I think
we have some mutual confidence, and he is like really well spoken.
People around. I mean, I've talked to other people in the media and people around the league all really like him as a human being, and he's been productive as well. As he mentioned, like when I was talking to him the other day, he's only missed 2 games. He'd only missed 2 games in his career before this year, which is insane.
Right?
That's remarkable for a wide receiver who's relatively small, like size wise. That's pretty impressive.
He's one of those guys that I think gets like a negative, like a negative external vibe because he's so well traveled. And he had the stuff that happened with the Steelers where he kind of held out.
Yeah, I was going to say he had to hold out back then.
And his stint in Miami didn't go very well. But, every time I see him, he's smiling. He's very friendly. He should be the third host of the No Huddle.
Gladly. But he, like, it's kind of an underrated thing. He's like one of those, like, veteran guys that, I mean, the reality is, like, when you're injured, you're just not as much a part of the team as when you're, like, active. And I think he would be a guy that, at least in that, they've talked about, you heard Jason Kelsey mention specific guys in specific rooms that they're missing. LeGarrette Blount here. Even he said Matt Collins randomly, I think, which was interesting. Brent Selleck, Patrick Robinson, like they had guys in the room, and that maybe they don't have that right now because Mike Wallace is injured in the receiver room. I don't know if any of those guys are leaders necessarily. I know everybody loves Alshon Jeffrey, but he's a pretty soft-spoken guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at what LeGarrette Blount said after.
He spoke out against the coaching staff for the Lions.
Right, and he backed up Matt
Stafford, yeah, and you need guys like that.
Right, and I think this is a players' league, and you need this team is like you and I weren't here last year, but you can even tell like when you talk to guys when they talk about LeGarrette or they talk about Bryant, that this is. So
I wanted to get into this. We can just do it now. So it's been interesting dichotomy in the locker room this week where, first you saw last week with Jason Kelsey's comments, and then you had Malcolm Jenkins come back and be like, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but that's his opinion. And then this week, you had Malcolm Jenkins kind of speaking out like more than he's the guy that if anyone's going to do it, it's him. He said, he didn't like the demeanor of the team, this, and that. I'd rather, get kicked out of the game than lose the way we did. And then you have, Zach Ertz on the offense being like, I mean, I can only speak for the offense, but I don't know if I agree with that. And then Fletcher Cox, who's another defensive leader, being like, I don't agree with that. It's interesting that that's happening. It seems like maybe I don't know if they're that excited about Malcolm taking that up in the media as opposed to behind the scenes, but it's just something to keep an eye on because when you have leaders on the same side of the ball, like I get if the offense and the defense are on different pages because the reality is a lot of the stuff they do is apart. But when you have Fletcher Cox and Malcolm Jenkins kind of disagreeing through the media, I mean this is just something that wasn't happening last year, and I don't know if it's necessarily a problem. Maybe it's good that they're willing to talk about what they agree and disagree with. But it's just something that like wasn't an issue last year.
This has been a rough PR week for Malcolm Jenkins, and I think he took the Saints' loss to heart because that game was very personal.
Yeah.
So that's what I chived that up to, but like. Zack Ertz, like I'm not saying Zack Ertz isn't a leader, and I'm not saying Fletcher Cox isn't a leader either.
They're different kinds of leaders, if anything.
They are, and I don't think they are still young.
Those are the guys that are like lead by example type guys, whereas Malcolm is the vocal guy.
Right.
That's why you see Malcolm making this speech every time they go out. It's like him and Jalen Mills.
So is Jason Kelsey.
And Kelsey, yeah.
I agree with Jason Kelsey, and I agree with Malcolm Jenkins.
There's truth in all the sides. Like maybe they don't. I don't necessarily think the team like laid down against the Saints. They didn't play well, and maybe the effort waned. But like you're down 48-7, like I don't blame them for that.
Yeah, I mean I think nothing was working.
Yeah,
nothing except for Cam Johnson. Nothing. He won Player of the Week. Did you know?
I actually didn't know that. Did he really?
Oh no, the Eagles player.
Oh, I was like, wait a second, what?
Great hit.
Oh man, that hit was awesome. It would have been talked about more if not for the game.
I was going to do a whole expose.
Oral history of that hit.
I don't. Zack Ertz and Fletcher Cox don't strike me as confrontational folks, and I think that. I mean, you've been in your personal life. You've been asked something that you were like, "Oh, I don't know if I was prepared for this." that's how the Fletcher Cox, Zach Ertz things kind of, and Doug Peterson does the same thing. Doug Peterson doesn't want to talk about it. I mean, he did this whole, he was like a 15-year-old who stole the keys to his parents' car and was being asked about it when Jeff McClain asked him about it.
It's pretty clear they prefer Malcolm didn't say that stuff to us because they all were caught off guard by it. Yeah.
That said, though, it's kind
of that's Malcolm's role as the leader to call people out.
But that said, I'll say this: there's a double standard because when Jason Kelsey spoke out, no one said anything.
Nobody criticized him for it. Nothing.
No one, not a person.
Besides Malcolm, I guess. Yeah.
Then again, Jason Kelsey is the only guy that
he could do no wrong in this.
He really. He plays injured. Everybody knows he's playing better than any center in the league,
and he's had a hurt knee all year.
Clearly banged up. I also think offensive line and the secondary have two separate roles, right? The secondary has been a weakness of this team all year, even when they didn't have injuries. The offensive line had been a strength forever, so that's kind of it too. But yeah, when you talk about leadership, I just think Brent Selleck, LeGarrette Blount were so important to this team, and very important in the red zone. Remember, Brent Selleck was a pretty good blocker, and LeGarrette Blount was sensational at times in short yardage situations. So, yeah, man, it's hard to make up for that. Patrick Robinson was a really good nickel corner for a year. I don't think Jordan Hicks has played the way he'd like to assume that leadership role.
When even Vinny Curry and Bo Allen were guys that have been here a long time.
Yeah,
they were locker room guys.
Even if they're not leaders, they're personality guys they brought.
Well, that's important. It's fills in the cracks of the team, which we've talked about, and they didn't fill out those cracks very well.
Well, it's been alluded to.
Haloti Ngata is not that. Haloti Ngata, there was this weird thing with Haloti Ngata the other. I forget. You might not have been in there when he did this.
I heard about it.
Yeah. So we were all talking. I think it was when we were talking to Malcolm actually, and he loudly as he's going into the shower, he's like, "Nobody told me the media was in here." He was mad about it. It didn't sound like he was even joking. It's nobody's wanted to talk to Haloti Ngata all year.
I can't recall.
And I don't for a guy who's 34, been in the league 14 years, all pro. I don't think he's kind of been what they thought he was going to be in terms of locker room guy either.
Yeah,
I don't want to make accusations or anything. I'm just saying,
just from the outside perspective,
there's you just got a different vibe from Bo Allen and Vinny Curry. Vinny Curry loved talking to the media. Bo Allen was one of the funniest guys on the team. And Haloti Ngata just hides in the shower when we walk in there.
Well, and I think the thing too is they've alluded to this with Timmy Jernigan. His personality brings
infectious.
Out.
Yeah.
Jay Ajayi, another guy who's been talked about. His personality is infectious. They've been missing those type of guys that are Zach Ertz is monotone.
It's good. You want to have a mix of the workman-like guys and the outwardly having a great time guys.
Yeah, but let's be honest here. If you worked with a bunch of monotone dudes, which is what
that's what I'm saying. You need. It's good to have those guys, but you also need the other side of it.
Nelson's got his moments where he's a hype guy.
A little bit of both, yeah.
Yeah, there's. But on offense, who's the guy that's really
rah-rah?
As much as Jason Kelsey's got this public persona, he's not a very boisterous guy. Neither is Lane Johnson. I think the most personable guy is probably Brandon Brooks.
Alshon would randomly be the guy who'd say something to get everybody pumped up, but he's still pretty soft-spoken, do your job kind of guy. Yeah. Torrey Smith was they probably missed Torrey Smith's leadership in that locker room quite a bit. Honestly,
gosh, yes, yeah.
He's a guy I didn't mention before. That's a guy Jason Kelsey mentioned too. He's as well-spoken, as willing to talk as He's a guy that if you're struggling, you can go to him. They don't have that on offense.
And that's not Golden Place's Tate.
Golden Place's Tate?
Yeah.
That was that was one of the better slip-ups I've ever heard. Golden Place.
That's not Golden Tate's, forte right now. It probably normally is, but he's been in this locker room for 2
2 minutes.
You look at Michael Bennett, you would think Michael Bennett would be really outspoken.
He even openly said a week or two, he's it's time for me to stop waiting for my opportunity. He said that to Dave Zangaro of NBC Sports.
Chris Long is a guy who has been very talkative, but it seems like
he hasn't talked to the media as much this season.
Yeah,
he has every right not to, but I'm just saying it's just these small things, It's just different than last year.
No one hyping up this. Even Matt Collins, you watch the DVD. From
him dancing and all that stuff,
him dancing. We ain't done dropping.
Just an energy guy. Just an energy guy, yeah.
And so I do think that that's an issue. Josh Adams, you've probably never heard him talk, or if you have heard him talk, it's very
it's not much, yeah.
Corey Clement was that guy, but Corey's barely being used.
Which is probably part of why he's not been that guy this year.
Right,
yeah.
probably. When the most exciting guy in the locker room is Nate Sudfeld, you can't really be stuck in it.
Hey, he's always walking in there with a smile.
And here's the thing, Jalen's not around.
Yeah.
Jalen's been injured. I think that's a huge part of Jalen's role is to be that.
I mean, how many times have you seen those videos of him giving like this great pregame speech to hype the guys up?
That's the thing. Like, I think Jalen Mills is way more important to this team than people realize, and I think he's the eventual successor to Malcolm Jenkins at strong safety, because he'll be cheap. But yeah, I mean, there's not a guy like Avonte Maddox is soft-spoken. Rasul Douglas, I don't know how much you're relying on him.
I mean, these are all guys that are in their first or second year anyway. Yeah.
Right. Jordan Hicks is a very soft-spoken guy. Nigel Bradham, very soft-spoken. Camus could speak up, but I don't.
I mean, he's a captain of the special teams. Yeah.
It's just one of those things where it seems like nobody's taken the co-leadership role with Malcolm Jenkins, and maybe that's frustrating. Same on offense. Jason Kelsey's that guy, but there's not.
I mean, Carson Wentz in reality is not that guy. A lot of times you'll have the quarterback's the one who will be like, "We're sucking it up right now. We have to get better." And he's more. I mean, that's just not. You're not going to force a guy to be who he's not, and that's just not what Carson is.
So
but
Doug Marrone, when I used to coach him in Jackson, cover him.
Man,
in Jackson,
you coached him? That's amazing.
It's been a bad podcast.
So is it your fault that they're this way this season because you coached Doug?
Jim Schwartz would say I'm performing at a 4 and 6 level right now. So when I used to cover Doug Marrone in Jacksonville, he had this thing where he would say this like every time like there was a leadership question, he would say, "Originally, I used to force leaders." But then I realized, like, you can't force a guy to act outside of his character or it'll come off phony or rehearsed or what have you. And he was noticing with guys that he would force that they would actually lose the locker room quicker than than really enhance it. And so he really had to watch his guys. Telvin Smith's a guy that's very proactive talker. Paul Posluszny was a guy that was a lead by example dude, but you had to have that mix, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
So, as much as we like leadership, let me lead us into our next segment.
Let's quickly talk some matchups. We went a little non-traditional this episode because there's a lot more like broader storylines I think are important to cover.
Injuries, it's hard to cover.
And we covered a bunch of the matchups, but more specifically, let's look at like Alshon Jeffrey versus Janoris Jenkins. Alshon Jeffrey had maybe his best game. That was the game where he had like 2 touchdowns, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
he had a good game.
I mean, and they've clearly studied that up. And I mean, Jenkins had a comment early this week where he said he doesn't think Carson's look the same mobility-wise, which is true.
Yeah,
like
that's accurate.
But he still complimented him. Like the full quote was like him saying like he's still great. He's just not running as much. So Alshon hasn't been MIA. A lot of it's been as a result of the quarterback play. But, I mean, his performance on Sunday is going to play a huge part in whether they win this game.
Certainly. I think there's reason to believe that he might be the catalyst for a win because, Zach Ertz somewhat got shut down against the Saints because they weren't on the field that often. You've got to stop forcing it to Zach Ertz. That's got to be a thing. So eventually you need other guys to take over. I think this is a good game for Golden Tate. 3 weeks into the offense, I think you're solid. I think this is the game where you unleash him, and he'll draw. What's his name? I'm totally blanking on his name, but he is like basically a fill-in corner himself. B.W. Webb.
Oh yeah.
So he'll draw him. That's going to be a fun matchup for Tate, especially if he knows what he's doing in the offense. Another matchup that I really like is Jason Kelsey versus Dalvin Tomlinson. They traded Snacks Harrison to the Giants traded Snacks Harrison to the Lions. This is going to be a much easier matchup for Kelsey. That said, Tomlinson can anchor really, really well. I do think whoever runs the ball most effectively early on will win this game, and I think Kelsey will play a huge role in that against Tomlinson. We don't really know who the corners are going to be, so we can't really talk about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's funny, Matt Lombardo, who covers the Giants for us now, like asked about, he's trying to get a vibe of like matchups. He's like, so who's going to like cover Odell and Sterling Shepard? And we both separately told him, we're like, your guess is as good as mine right now.
I mean, it's probably going to be Shannon Sullivan.
I mean, Sullivan and Bosby are the outside guys, right?
Right.
Yeah,
so Cravon LeBlanc will cover. I don't remember who their slot receiver is.
Yeah, I'm not sure, honestly.
Look that up for me. But while you're doing that, I think Bosby could have an okay day against Sterling Shepard. He's pretty inconsistent. But Shannon Sullivan, I think, would be the matchup for Odell, just because from a speed perspective. I also think that Sullivan is much better than a practice squad player, even though he was on the practice squad. I think he's developed. He's also had the experience of going up against Mike Thomas now and Cole Beasley and some of the better wide receivers in the league. So he would be the guy that I would probably put on Odell, and then you'd give him help, I guess, with Corey Graham, which is basically not giving him any help.
Looks like Michael Thomas is their nickel cornerback. He's their safety. I guess they put him in the nickel.
Okay, well, there you go. But W. Webb's the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's a good spot to end on matchups.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think we got to wrap. We got to wrap this up.
Oh, okay.
Been going a while. All right, let's get to our picks real quick. I've gone back and forth, but as of right now, I have the Giants winning this game. I have the Giants 31, the Eagles 24 is what I had. The offense hasn't given me any reason to believe they can buck the trend. If they were going to do it, it would be against the Giants team, but that's where I sit right now.
See, I'm a little more optimistic. I don't remember what my actual score was that I picked.
You have 23-17 Eagles.
Okay, I think it's gonna be a little bit more high scoring. I'm gonna go 26-20 Eagles. I do think the Eagles win this game, and I think they win it in a way that maybe it's close going into the third quarter, where it's maybe a 17-17 game, or like a something to that effect. But I think the Eagles are in a good spot right now where they can win this game. They definitely can win this game. I mean, it's their season. If they don't win this game, then I don't know really what to tell you.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we'll end on that note. As always, make sure you subscribe. We're on all the podcast apps. Leave a comment. We'll try and hit them either on Sunday or our next podcast. And thanks for listening, guys.
This episode of the No Huddle Show is brought to you by Chevrolet Cadillac of Turnersville, a Penske automotive dealer. Visit today at the Route 42 location in Turnersville, New Jersey, or online at ChevroletofTurnersville.com and CadillacofTurnersville.com.